Welcome to the All-Star Athlete Podcast, your guide to mastering the mental game and reaching your full potential.
Today's sponsor is Well Traveled. This time of year, we're always on the go. With all the activities, stress, and travel, it's easy to feel tired and run down. Maybe you're feeling that way right now. Give your immune system a natural boost with Well Traveled, a drink mix made with plant-based, clinically proven ingredients and no added sugar. It's a better alternative to emergency and airborne. Just open a packet, mix with water, and enjoy. Right now, you can save 25% by using the code ALLSTAR at checkout on their website. Visit gowelltraveled.com/discount/allstar to grab your 25% discount. Again, that's gowelltraveled.com/discount/allstar. Stay well on the go with Well Traveled.
Today, our guest is Amalani Fukofuka, who prefers to be known simply as Fuka. Fuka is a former professional baseball player who is now an online fitness coach and personal trainer. Fuka, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you here. If you could just start by introducing yourself a little bit for our listeners and giving us a little background on your career in baseball and kind of what you're up to these days.
I'll start when I was playing. I started playing baseball 5 years old. That's what, usually start playing t-ball. And then growing up, I lived in an inner city, so I don't want to say I was living in the hood, quote unquote, but definitely lower income, right? Both my parents were just made minimum wage, trying to get by, big family. So they wanted to keep us out of trouble, right? In our neighborhood, we got a lot of gangs, drugs around, stuff like that. So their mindset for me and my brothers was put us in the most sports possible that we could handle. Literally played 3 sports: football, baseball, basketball, growing up. And then, played through high school. End of high school, I played, in high school, I played football and baseball, so stopped playing basketball. And played all 4 years in both. By the end of my 4th year, had tons of scholarship offers, ended up getting drafted to the MLB by the Kansas City Royals organization. After that, played 5 years, didn't quite make it. Did my best I can do after, and then, then life hit you. It was time to figure out life. Now, I spent between ending my baseball career and then up until now, it took me 5 years in that time span to try to figure out what I want to do. Found my passion in personal training and now online coaching as well. So that's where we're at.
Okay. So that's kind of a little mini life story of from where you began to where you are now.
Right.
You mentioned you kind of grew up in the inner city a little bit, and we're gonna go back and talk about all that stuff, but kind of one thing at a time here.
For sure.
What part of the country or what city were you from, or where are you from originally?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area, specifically the East Bay, so closer to Oakland. I grew up in a city called Hayward, but the biggest city that everyone knows is either Oakland or San Jose. So that kind of whole area is kind of similar, same culture. It's a little gritty. It's a little lower, usually lower income. You find little pockets of you'll find little pockets of what do we call it?
Wealth?
Yeah, of wealth, but very small in those cities.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I spent about 12 years in the San Francisco Bay Area myself. Pleasanton.
You
East
did?
Bay, yeah.
You said how long?
So I moved there when I was 2004, and I was there for like 10, 12 years. I've moved around all up and down
Oh,
California.
damn. No,
yeah.
I did not know you were there for 12 years.
Yeah,
Oh, so
yeah.
you kind of know.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I did my bachelor's at Cal State East Bay, which is in Hayward.
Oh, yeah, we did talk about that. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I grew up from Cal State East Bay.
Yeah.
I grew up probably 15 minutes from there.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Oakland at large, having gone to a lot of Oakland A's baseball games. You probably did the same growing up. And like riding the BART, the Bay Area Rapid Transit, like through Oakland and stuff. And
I grew actually throughout the first pitch hit when I was in 4th grade at the A's game.
Okay,
so
that's sick.
it was random as shit. But
yeah, how do you feel about the A's moving? Are you like,
dude,
were you connected to them in any way?
I wouldn't say I was like super connected to them. But I just can't believe like the city of Oakland is diminished.
Yeah.
There's no A's, there's no Raiders, there's no Warriors.
Yeah.
The Niners is even in across the bay. They moved to Santa Clara, so it's like there's nothing.
Yeah, which is actually kind of wild because like you were mentioning, it's a little bit of a rough area, like Oakland, Hayward, Richmond, like that whole area and stuff. But it's just, I think the gentrification of it. So it's like with Silicon Valley and being near San Francisco and like all the money coming in, like that, drove up the cost and like of kind of the average rental unit, leading to a lot of like homelessness issues and stuff like that. So it's like, obviously there's a lot of money, but then obviously there's also like this, kind of hood element, if you will, to Oakland and Hayward. Kind of an interesting dichotomy, but yeah, I'm very familiar with the area personally.
Oh yeah, so you know.
I do know. Not certainly not as firsthand as you. But I know I can associate. So sure.
Not many people like kind of get the culture. So that's like since you've moved there, it's kind of cool that you like kind of know like they have different music.
For sure.
Different lingo.
Absolutely.
Little, people carry themselves a little different.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of E40, G-Eazy.
Oh, yeah.
These guys are Bay Area rappers.
I grew up with that.
Yeah. I think Andre Nicotina tells me.
Andre Nicotina.
A Bay Area guy.
Yep, Mac Dre.
Yeah. Yeah, good, actually great rappers. That's, West Coast rap is the kind of stuff I like. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's bring it back to baseball a little bit. So you kind of talked about your career arc a little bit. Obviously, playing multi-sports when you were younger, your parents got you into that kind of to stay out of trouble, like you were saying. But was there anything specific about like baseball? Because that's mostly what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah.
What first inspired you to pursue baseball? Was there something about it specifically? Like, how did your journey in that sport begin?
No, man, just like I said earlier, like it really was just something my parents just put me in. Like even when I asked them, they weren't like, oh, like you just were so intrigued to play baseball. Like it was like legit, like we want you guys to play sports and to keep you guys out of trouble. And my dad is, born and raised in Tonga. So, like, I don't know if you know like Polynesian culture, but like our genetics are they're just different, to be honest. Like even though my own cousins and family. And so when I started playing on sports and I started picking up the technique, like from a very young age, I knew I was like just faster, stronger, taller, not by a lot, but always like, I'd say probably on every sport I played, I was 100% the best player on the team. I'm not saying I'm cocky, just like my dad, parents, God-given genetics. Like I just had good genetics, honestly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that comes across as cocky at all. In fact, most of the people that make it to the next level, whatever that is, so from high school to college to professional, and so forth, like you are the absolute best player at the level before that.
Right.
Because like otherwise you wouldn't have made it to the next level.
For sure.
It's like 1% of people. So whether that's through genetics, through hard work, like obviously you probably practiced your ass off, like you're in the weight room, like you're working on your skills and stuff. Like this is a whole different conversation, but there's a whole thing about, sports and like, oh, he must have been born with it and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, you're given the genetics, but obviously like you put in the hard work too.
Oh yeah, the technique will take you to the next level.
Right.
The next level.
Right, and then maybe mental performance being an aspect of it too, which is kind of what 1,000%. We're here to discuss today. So your experiences with that. but we'll get into that a little bit later. So it sounds like there wasn't really anything specifically about baseball that like drew you to it. It was just your parents wanted you to stay out of trouble, put you in sports, and then it kind of grew on you from there.
Yeah. And are you asking like how'd I get basically going into like pro or?
Well, so yeah, so basically, let's kind of move on to the next question here. So kind of a 3-part question. So I'm going to ask all 3 parts, and then we're going to break it down a little bit so that you can kind of get a roadmap of where we're going here. So first part of this question is, can you walk us through a timeline of your baseball career, sort of highlighting any key moments where you like qualified and like moved on to the next level? So we're going to talk about that. Okay. And at which point did you realize that you were ready to move on to the next level? So like, was there a specific game that happened, or like, okay, so that's second part of the question. And then eventually when the time came to transition out of playing, how did you know it was the right moment, or was it more of like a forced decision? So let's kind of, walk me through the timeline of your baseball career, given that context.
Okay, got you. Okay, so yeah, like I said, growing up playing, I would say from 5 years old till I believe like 13, which is like that freshman year, I believe, about 13. I always knew I was like one of the best, but you don't know until you get to high school, until like how good you really are, until you get on a high school team, because then you're like, okay, now I'm not just playing like in a little league or like in a small like county league or something like that. So when I got to high school, I played my freshman year as my first year. And that year, I started to see that I was like a little bit better than everybody else, because they put me on, I was the only freshman to be playing on JV. And in my school, I went to a huge high school. We went to a school with almost 5,000 students. So I went to a big D1 high school. It was the only school in the city. So then it was like then I started to see, I'm like, okay, I'm the only one on JV. So I'm like, okay, now I'm getting a little bit, I'm like, oh, maybe I'm like better than I think. Cause I honestly did not really know until like junior year of when I was like, oh, wow, I'm like kind of separating myself from everybody. Because like I said, I played JV, I was the only freshman on JV. And then I'm like, okay, so if I'm good enough to play on JV, the following year, I dominated as a sophomore on JV again. And then I got to play as a guest player in the playoffs as a sophomore, the only sophomore. And they let me play in one of the high school playoffs, which that junior year, our team won the state championship, or our section championship.
So like varsity called you up for the playoffs?
Yes.
Yeah.
So varsity called me up for the playoffs, and then we won it. I didn't play much, but I was the only one on the team, and I got a ring. So then I was like, oh shit, I'm like, am I allowed to cuss on here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah. So I'm like, oh shit, I'm like, damn, I'm like, all right, now I got a ring, and I'm a sophomore, and I still got 2 more years, right? So now going into junior year, now I'm that guy, right? Because now I'm a guaranteed starter as a junior, first year on varsity, and the junior year your junior year summer is when high school baseball players start doing what we call showcases, and that's where you get real exposure to colleges, pro teams. And this is like a side story. I was gonna quit. So this is a side story. So I played my sophomore year as on JV, but at the same time that we really didn't talk about is that I was really good at football. Like I was number 2 in the state as a receiver, and so I don't know if you've been to like high school football game compared to a baseball game. It's like night and day exciting.
Yeah.
Like football is like Friday night lights, like all the girls are in school in the stands, like people are wearing your jersey. So when I started I was getting equally as good in football, but then after my sophomore year in football, I remember I wanted to quit baseball because I started making the same leaps, basically. You know, I got brought up as a sophomore to varsity, same thing. So I was like, both of these things were happening, and I was like, man, I like football more because it's just more exciting in high school, honestly. Not even thinking about the longer, like, career goals, like, after high school, but at that time, I told my high school coach, I said, I want to quit.
Told your high school baseball
coach. Yeah. I said, I want to quit. And I think he knew how good I was more than I knew. And he called my dad and goes, hey, Amalani wants to quit. Like, I need you to talk him back into it. And my dad called me pissed off. And because just like, you know, my parents don't want me to, like, pull back from any sports because it keeps me out of trouble, remember? So he was like, I don't care. He's like, I don't care if you don't want to play. Like, just play it. Just play it. Like, just do it because it's different seasons. I was like,
football was like what, winter, and baseball was like spring or something.
Yeah. Football's spring, and then baseball's, I think, is winter.
Well, you could do both.
Yeah, you can do both.
Whatever season it was, like they didn't really overlap.
But for some reason, I just wanted to focus on football. Like, I want to lift more weights, like train specifically for football.
It just excited you a little bit.
Yeah, because I was just had a great year. But then I ended up, so he called my dad. My dad's like, you're not quitting. So then I ended up force playing my junior year, and I went crazy. I hit like over 300 my first year and as a varsity player. And then this is when stuff started to take off. So this is, I guess, to your question, this is when I started to see like this is getting crazy because in the junior year is when all baseball players do showcases. Because going into your senior year, they need to know who's on the radar, right? So my high school coach pulls me to a showcase. It was called the North-South Showcase at the time. Basically a showcase of all the best players in Northern California. They build a team. And then all the best players in Southern California, they build a team. So for the North team, I did a tryout to try to make it. And dude, when I say I was shocked, I swear to God, I've never seen that many scouts on one baseball field. There probably was at least 70 scouts, like wearing
college scouts
and pro.
Okay.
So you got guys with the A's hats. You got USC. You got Fresno, like powerhouse D1s, and I'm like, dude, I'm shitting bricks.
Just at the tryout.
At the tryout. This is a tryout / showcase.
Okay.
So if you're good enough, you make the team.
Yeah.
And you play the Southern California team.
One game.
3-game series.
Okay.
So it gives the scouts a chance to see the best of the best. Playing 3 games.
So kind of like a little McDonald's All-American.
Yeah.
Sort of a
similar.
vibe,
Very similar. Yeah.
Showcase the best talents.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So. In that showcase, they'll have you run a 60-yard dash. They'll have you throw, for outfielders, they have you throw from the outfield to third base because it's a long throw. Mm-hmm. And then they'll have you take BP, which is batting practice. And then they'll have you play a scrimmage. For some reason, my football instincts took over because in football, you don't get the same pregame jitters as you get in baseball. Because in football, it's a contact sport, so we talk about mental preparation. That's a different level, man. Like when you're in the locker room before a football game, I don't care what level you are, high school, college, pro, like you have to like think that you're somebody you're not because you know you're gonna start hitting people, right? Like it's a different like preparation.
You become like a different person.
Yeah, like you're in practice or in the warm-ups, you're like hitting each other, like just getting your pads warmed up, your muscles getting adjusted, like you're hyping yourself up.
Yeah.
So I got the same jitters for that. When I seen all the scouts, I'm like, okay. So, I was either going to be amazing or dog shit.
Yeah. So the adrenaline basically took over your sympathetic nervous system. You got like super hype, like,
oh, dude.
ready to go.
Yeah, I get this pregame feeling that I can't explain. Yeah. I know athletes know it because It's like right before you step onto the field of the game, it's just like a different level. And so I got that feeling. I ended up running the fastest 60 out of all of these guys. And mind you, these guys, some of them already have scholarships. I had nothing. I was an unknown.
Were these all juniors?
All juniors.
All juniors. Okay.
So in this junior class, remember, this is the best of the best in the Bay Area. So, and from all over. So a lot of these guys were baseball bred, meaning like from a little kid, they're doing private lessons. They're doing, baseball only, year-round travel ball. I was not like that because since my parents had me in multiple sports, that's why I told you I never was like, this was never my goal. It kind of fell into my lap, you would say, because I have friends that have trained since a baby. Like I'll talk to them and their parents are like, they're like, yeah, my dad put me in private lessons my whole life. Like I said, travel ball my whole life. I eat, sleep, shit, baseball. Like there's nothing else. For me, it was different, right? So when I got to the showcase, I'm like, what's up, man? Like, where you from? Like one of my buddies, Jordan, like childhood friend, he's like, I'm from, the South Bay. I got a scholarship to Fresno, and I'm over here like, shit, dude, I have nothing. I'm just a high school guy that my coach thinks he's good.
Yeah, so you're trying to figure out how you stacked up to all these guys, like who's who. Like, did you recognize anybody that you'd heard of, or
no,
you
didn't know anybody? I didn't know soul. I didn't know anybody.
So you had really no idea what to expect.
Nothing, dude. Nothing at all. But I just like took over, focused. Like I said, I had the fastest 60. When we did the throwing from the outfield to the third base, I threw perfect base throws, like which is rare for it's just.
From right field, you threw to third base?
Like, I mean, on a laser line from right to third.
And you could normally do that?
I was at a strong arm, but the accuracy is always hard. It doesn't matter if you're a pro. Like, that throw is a long throw, It's like over 200 feet. It's like, so I just had a perfect couple throws, and then now these guys are like, who the hell is this guy?
Right.
Right? I see guys talking to my coaches in their ear. We go to batting practice. I had okay. But then we did the scrimmage, and I was like accidentally, but I hit a home run. And I hit a home run, inside the park home run. So basically, you know what inside the park home run is?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I basically hit the ball on the warning track, and I sprinted around as fast as I can. And so now they seen that my speed, like it's one thing to see a guy running in a 60 on a straight line, but now they saw me run around the whole base, around all the bases.
Functional, smart base runner, heads up.
Just like, good base path, running fast, and like they see me in full stride. And now it was a whole different level. They're like, who the hell? I seen scouts running up to my coach, who the hell is this guy?
Right.
I talked to my coach after the whole thing was done, and he's like, he's like, I don't know what got into you. He's like, but everybody just asked about you. Like everybody. And I knew from that day was the moment, to your question earlier.
Yeah.
That's when I knew this is going to be a whole different journey from that point on. Because from after that, scouts were coming to my house. I started getting letters from colleges. I started getting hundreds of emails, phone calls. I mean, it was like a movie.
From colleges or from pro teams? Both. Did you go to college? Did you play college ball?
No, I skipped college.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But there's no rules around like
not in baseball,
minimum, any of that kind of stuff.
No,
so you could just like go
baseball.
straight out of high school and get drafted.
Yeah, in baseball, you can go straight from high school.
Okay.
But the rule for baseball is if you get drafted as a kid, I don't know if it's still the rule now, but I'm pretty sure it is. It has to be. But when you get drafted as a high school baseball kid, they have to supply whatever your commit to college was. They have to match that scholarship money in your contract, so that after you're done playing baseball, you can use the money to fund your college.
Okay.
After you're done, so it's pretty cool because you're not gonna miss out on college if you want to go to college. Yeah. I just didn't end up going to college. I tried to go in 2 years after, and I just wasn't for me, man. So I knew like college pros were coming to my house, and I knew I wanted to sign. I knew I wasn't like because for me, it's weird. Like I didn't have great grades, not because I didn't try or anything like that. It just school was just hard for me, man. I don't know if I had I still don't know. I might have like a low scale ADHD or something like that, but it's just so hard for me to concentrate in school. And so I knew I wanted to play. So when the pro teams come to your house, they'll ask you, do you want to sign? Because if you don't want to sign, they'll just kind of sign you off because they know like some guys really want to go to college. Like some like high level college guys like Stanford players, a lot of times they don't sign because it's a very prestigious school. And you could end up getting more money if you perform well at the college. But that wasn't my case. So
like once you get drafted, you mean? Like if you perform well at college, you could get more money? Or are you talking about like NIL deals?
No. So if you are really good and say you have a high level college offer, which is like, a powerhouse, like Stanford or like Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Alabama.
Yeah.
One of these schools.
If you go to college and you perform really well, it boosts your value even more going in because if they get you as a young kid, they're taking a risk on you, right? Because they're like, if you don't perform, then we're giving you a little bit less money, so who cares? But if you go to college, you can and you perform well, this can work both ways. Because if you perform well, your stock goes up. Then you get to go higher in the draft. So if they're telling you like, hey man, I know you're going to Stanford, but I want to pick you up in the 4th round, and that money in the 4th round, that slot value they call it, is like, say like the 4th round for example, it'd be like somewhere around $350,000 at the time. Now, if I take a gamble and go to school and perform well, that can put me into the 2nd round or the 1st round. And then you're signing for like $500,000 to $1 million. See what I'm saying? Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Like D1 college baseball is hard.
So you're kind of betting on yourself,
yeah,
basically. These guys are like in professionals, they're in a contract year. They decline the contract offer.
Correct.
They think they're going to play better this year and
Correct.
boost their value.
Exactly
so
the same
kind of thing.
Exactly the same.
Okay.
So I knew I didn't want to go to college though because I just was not a great student. Like it would be hard for me to concentrate on baseball and in school because it's just hard for me.
Yeah.
So I committed to the Kansas City Royals. Draft day came. They called me. They're like, hey, we want to pick you up. Want to sign you for $175,000.
So you got drafted?
5th round.
Drafted 5th round. Okay.
Yes.
In what year?
2013.
Okay.
2013. So signed.
Okay.
After high school, graduated. I think the draft was in June, and then they give you a call. They do 2 days. I believe it's the 1st and 2nd round the first day, and they do the rest of the rounds the 2nd and 3rd day. But so I got drafted the 2nd day of the MLB draft, 5th round, I believe 144th pick, and they called me. They're like, "Hey, we're gonna get you for $175,000. Like, do you want it?" And I was like, "Yeah, let's go." And then boom.
How did that feel?
Man,
was that a rush? Was it like, were you like surprised? Were you expecting to get drafted higher? Like, what was that like?
I actually thought that was very high. 5th round is extremely high for someone that like wasn't expecting to get drafted. So I wasn't expecting to get drafted. Like I said, it all fell kind of together like in my junior year.
Yeah. So you got drafted to the MLB your junior year of high school?
No, after your senior year.
Oh, so after senior year.
But that was the year I told you I was getting all the attention and
right.
I kind of blew up on the map, like on the radar of all the MLB scouts.
Right. So they knew about you then.
Yeah.
And then was it after that kind of Northern California, Southern California combine scrimmage thing that you explained to me? Mm-hmm. Like, what happened to football then? Was football just like immediately like out of the picture? Did you even play football senior year? No. Were you also trying to get drafted in the NFL or like what?
Yeah. So NFL, college football is different. You have to go to college.
For a year.
At least. I think 1 year or 2. I can't remember. I think 1.
Yeah.
For sure. So for football, it's all college. attention.
Yeah.
So
Were you still trying to go
yeah. So
play college football?
After that year after that showcase, that kind of switched my mindset because I was like, okay, I can get paid for this. You can't get paid. When I was playing in 2013, they were giving money for college.
Right.
Now they do is fucking bullshit.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
In
fact, they revoked what it was the Heisman Trophy because the guy won it. I forget who it was that.
Reggie Bush.
Yeah, he won the Heisman, and
Yeah.
then they like revoked it because they found out that he took money or whatever, and like people are like trying to get him his like Heisman back. But now there's like the NIL deals.
Yeah, I think they're gonna give it back to him. I don't know if they did or not.
I haven't heard anything about it specifically.
Yeah, I
but
don't know if
at
they
the
did.
time, so there was no possibility of you making money playing college football.
No, but it pisses me off because if I had that leverage from college football that they were going to offer me money, then the MLB would have to offer me more money. And then they would go back and forth, like boom, boom, boom.
Yep.
So now it's bullshit because now...
You missed the boat by like 5 years.
I missed the boat,
Yeah.
It's bad luck, but
Yeah.
So football, I did really well, actually. Like I said, I was number 2 as a receiver in the state of California in terms of touchdowns. Mm-hmm. So I was still killing it. Our team actually, my senior year for football, went to the section championship and we came in second that year. So we killed it. We were like 11-2. So it was that was super fun still, but I ended like when I figured out like all these college scouts were coming to my door, like even the coaches were like, "All right, man, we know you're going to play pro baseball."
The football coaches.
Yeah. Everybody knew, bro.
Yeah,
like everybody knew
for sure.
Like I was walking around school differently.
Yeah.
People were dude. That's the first time I seen people start treating me different.
Yeah.
That's when I knew. I mean, now I kind of got a little experience of like being a high level like athlete because, dude, people treat you different.
Like good or bad or both?
I guess kind of both. Like I guess good. I guess just like the hype, you know?
Yeah.
Like girls start talking to you differently. They start all of a sudden my crush that didn't like me likes me now.
Yeah.
Like it's like funny. It was like funny, like a little college or like a mini high school like change.
Like a celebrity.
Like like a mini celebrity. Even my friends that were like kind of like that had scholarships, like say in football, they were like the guys at school. Like, oh, that's my boy Miles. He had a scholarship to Northwestern as a football player, running back, and he was like a guy. Like he'd come to school like, oh Miles, that's this football guy. Like now I was the pro guy, so I've surpassed all my friends.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because like that attention in high school is like crazy, man. Like I wasn't like a regular student anymore. Like it's just different, but
yeah.
But like I said, like the question that you asked, I completely switched my mindset and went fully into baseball at that point. So I started training a little harder, taking extra swings, like, you know, going out with my dad. We do like extra drills. I started working with a little bit of like a little more of like coaches like working on my swing. But I was very raw, man. I didn't ask for anything. This was like 100%. Like I was a raw, talented baseball player that wasn't fundamentally really gifted yet because I didn't work on it. It was just like I had raw talent with good genetics, and I kind of did enough to just get an opportunity to play. So it was nothing like I didn't try to be a baseball player at all.
Okay. So that's kind of like the high school journey.
Yeah.
You got drafted. You went on to play in the professional leagues. Talk about that a little bit. And then also talk about sort of when it came time to transition out of playing. Because that's a lot about what we're here to talk about. So that's a good backstory. Yep. So now talk to me about your professional career a little bit, and then leading into like, how did you know it was time to move on, and like, how did that all play out?
Okay, yeah. Okay, so right when you sign your contract, they give you like a few months and they're like, hey, like right away, you're flying to Arizona, or wherever your spring training facility is at. Ours was in Arizona. And they're like, it's starting. Like, this is it. Like, your first summer, you're going to go play, and you're playing your first season as a rookie.
So you graduated high
leagues.
school
in
the spring or something of 2013 probably. And then you had a month off, and then you went to spring training camp for the Kansas City Royals.
They draft you in June, and like very short after, like a couple weeks, they're like booking you a flight, and you're on your way, and you're gone. You're not coming back home till like after summer. So yeah, I signed, made it to Arizona. They put you in a hotel. You're like, that's where you're going to live for the summer. And then you end up playing I played in an Arizona league, rookie league. So the whole league was in Arizona. So I ended up staying there this summer, and then I got my first experience as a rookie. And it was hard for me though, because then that's when I started to see real fucking good baseball players, like the best I've ever seen in my life, where everyone is either as good or better, right? So everyone is an even playing field now. Maybe you have like different traits of your game that you're better in, but like everyone can hit, everyone could throw, like, I start to see like real talent. So it was hard because since I wasn't bred as like a full baseball player, I wasn't ready for that level. So I was playing catch up now. So fundamentally, I had to catch up to all these guys that have been trained their whole life. And so I struggled, man, for a couple years. But long story short, I ended up playing. So if you don't understand baseball in the minor leagues, it goes rookie ball, low A, high A, double A, triple A, and then big leagues. So there's a lot of levels to go through.
Okay. So like 4 like farm teams levels.
Yeah, for sure. So I ended up playing 3 years of rookie ball. My third year, I had an amazing year. The first 2 years, I struggled. First 2 years, I struggled. My third year, I took off. I had an amazing year. And that's when I was like on the map when you do good, you make it on the team's top 30 list. So each team has a top 30 prospect list in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
If you make it on that list, that's when you're a guy. Like what I mean by that is like now you're prioritized as a minor leaguer because they're trying to like speed boost you to the pros now.
Yeah. So at this time, the Kansas City Royals, after that third season, put you on their list of like top 30 prospects, basically.
Yeah, and in baseball, in any sport actually, when you're a top 5 draft pick, they already prioritize you as a player, meaning you get more playing time than the lower drafted players. That's just a fact.
A top 5 draft pick for your organization.
Top 5 rounds, yeah. So if you're first, second, third, fourth, fifth round draft pick.
Okay. So if you get drafted in the first 5 rounds.
They prioritize you as a player, meaning like they'll give you more playing time because they invested more into you.
Right.
So I always was a priority player, so I played a lot up until the point. But when I had a great third year, then they're like prioritizing you even more. So now they're like, hey man, like a couple more good years and you're going to the big leagues. Like the coaches are telling you this. Mm-hmm. So after that good year, I went to my first low A team, which we call a full season. So you get a full. Damn, I wish I could look this up. I think it's like 130 something games.
All right, so you had a good third year playing rookie ball, and at that point you knew you were
going to the next level.
Whatever that was. So talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah. So after the third year, I knew I was automatically going to the next level because in pro baseball, like if you have a good year, you know that you're going to go up. So it's exciting, right? Because I had a great year, so I'm like, all right, I'm guaranteed going up. Exactly what happened. But But then after that year, I struggled a lot. And a lot of it was because I wasn't mentally ready, which is a good, I guess, something great to talk about in such at this point in my career on the mental side, because I was just young. I mean, at that point, I was 20. Was I 20? 21. And I just did not know how to take criticism, right? So I had, going into that year, I'm like, I'm the man, I'm a prospect. I'm like, they're expecting a lot from me. So I have to perform. And I remember this exact moment because it destroyed me mentally and I didn't take it well as a young athlete. So I remember at my first game at the next level, which was low A, I hit a home run the first game of the season, which was a huge deal because I'm a prospect, remember? So they got me batting third. They got me in the best spot. I'm hitting third. First game of the season, boom, hit a home run. I come into the dugout and my new hitting coach that year, he goes, "Nice, bro, but you were late on that." And I hit a home run. And then I remember that those words destroyed me. And I almost want to say my career because I couldn't get over what he said. Like after he told me that, I went in to watch the film of me hitting that home run and I was late, but I still hit a home run. Like in baseball, if you hit a home run, it's fucking hard.
Yeah.
Like,
so when you say you hit it late, you hit it over the right field.
Right field fence, yeah.
Right-handed?
Yes.
So you were like
a little late
of a second late
right
on your swing, but you still hit a home run over the right field wall.
Yes.
And that coach, instead of, he gave you a little dap, but instead of like boosting you up, he gave you some constructive criticism.
Exactly.
And maybe didn't deliver it in the best way possible. It was kind of came across as like negative.
Yeah.
And it really affected you.
I always tell that story because my friends that still play, I tell them like, which is the number one advice I give to all my baseball friends and the young guys that follow me. I say, when things are working, do not change it. Don't listen to anybody. Don't let anyone tell you that you're doing anything that needs to be fine-tuned or whatnot, because it's mostly mental. Like, just because of what he said, the next, 4 months, I was terrible. It was the worst baseball I played in 2 years at that point. And to be honest, that year I struggled. They put me on the same team to try to redeem my year, and I struggled again, and I just couldn't figure it out. And then eventually my career came to an end. So
why do you think you struggled so much after that? Did you change your swing?
Yes.
Like you were trying to swing earlier or something?
1,000%.
Because your swing coach gave you that feedback, and then that kind of destroyed your whole swing process?
Yeah, because just like the players going up levels, the coaches go up levels. So the coach I had the year prior didn't move up with me. He went to a different team, and so we didn't, even though me and that coach from the year before did well together, a new coach came in, and that guy was kind of trying to prove himself. Just coach trying to prove himself too, but since he was trying to prove himself, sometimes their advice, they're trying to fine tune stuff that doesn't need to be fine tuned, and that's exactly what happened. I hit a home run, and he's like, "Hey, you're late on that," and I'm like, "What the?" Killed my confidence. Terrible.
Yeah.
And I try to fix my swing. I try to do little different tweaks and stuff to try to fix a problem that didn't even exist. And I just couldn't basically come back from that. Okay.
So was that an isolated event, or he kind of worked with you and it just wasn't a good relationship with that coach, and that kind of destroyed your swing?
We went to the film room and he pointed it out. And then he's telling me that my swing was a little bit long. Just like you said, a millisecond long.
Right.
And I try to fix that and work on it during the season, which is the worst time to work on anything when you're already playing games. And I just couldn't fix it. And I don't even think it was really a problem, to be honest. It was kind of just a mental thing that he instilled in my head.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn it, like I couldn't come back, man. And I got hurt like a couple times during the season, like little injuries, and I don't know. I just couldn't come back from that, and it really was mental. It really was.
Did you start like second guessing yourself when you were at the plate? Like, should I swing early? Should I swing late? Like,
oh yeah,
getting in your head, like.
Yeah, because baseball's a sport of failure. You succeed 27% of the time, and you're basically a pro. You're like at the best of the best. So it compounds. Like if I have a problem, like which I started thinking I had a swinging problem, and I struck out, and I'm like, oh man, that's a reason, and I try to fix it again, and then, like the more times you fail, it just compounded into worse and worser things, and then I started thinking that I'm not good enough. I started thinking that I shouldn't be here. All these negative thoughts is just compounded, and it just sucked. Like going forward,
those negative thoughts was that just you, or was that like you were starting to hear your teammates like chatter about you a little bit, like you're kind of hearing the little whisper here and there, like was it like coming from other people too? Like could you sense that other guys were like down on you a little bit, or was it just all you?
No, like no one says anything because it's just baseball's a hard sport. Everyone struggles at some point, but like when you strike out and then strike out again, and then sometimes 3 times in one game, and then like 2 times in one game, and then 4 times the next game, like you start getting those looks, like you gonna figure it out or what? Like So yeah, you get looks for sure, like. Especially when you're not winning, like our team was losing too. Like I wasn't the only player that just sucked, which is another factor. Like, when a team's winning, like sometimes if you feed off it, like I always use Steph Curry as an example. Like he's so good that the weaker players start to play to his level almost. Some of these guys are better. So that wasn't my case. Like I was struggling and our team sucked. So it was just a downward spiral all around, like mentally and just like environmentally.
Okay. So you weren't able to really recover from that. You struggled for a couple of seasons, and then did you get cut? Did you what happened?
Yeah.
Like how did you talk to me about that a little bit? Like somebody forced you out, or what happened?
Yeah. Well, my experience, they gave me another year to prove myself after my first bad year, and they were like, they gave me another full year to prove myself. Gave me you get a lot of at bats, man. You get 500 at bats. So I got another full year, and then kind of in the spring training the following year, they kind of just called me into the office, and they're like, hey, man, it's been a long road. We appreciate you, investing your time into this. And they're like, it's just time to move on. Like the next wave of players are coming in, and they got to make room, and you're not performing. And that's pretty much it. It's kind of give you a handshake, and you're on your way.
Show you the door.
Yeah.
And they had already fulfilled their financial obligations to you.
Yeah. It's a business, man. It's a business.
So what was that meeting? What was that day like for you? Talk to me about the mental, what were you feeling? What happened next?
So you could kind of feel it coming, because if you're struggling for a long time, you kind of are all right, when is I need to figure my shit out and start performing, or that day's coming. So I felt like that whole second year after I had the first bad year, I felt just not good. It was just a long bad season. So the following year, I'm I'm either getting cut or I'm gonna get lucky and get another shot, which is just didn't happen, obviously. But I don't know, man. For sure I was in tears. As any, professional player would be, your career's done. That was, some people that is high school, some people that's college. For me, that was it. That was the...
Yeah. So did you cry, in the meeting? As soon as you got in your car, when you got home a week later?
Yeah.
Whoa, how did that play out?
Yeah, so I packed all my stuff, flew home, and it didn't hit me till I got home to my mom's house, and I was sitting there, and I was like, oh shit, I'm done. I'm never gonna play again, done.
Yeah.
Which I probably could have played overseas or something, but just playing overseas was in I didn't want to. Yeah, I just didn't want to like play further than I was already at because I would just be playing to try to get back on a pro team and an MLB team. So that was it. Yeah.
So you kind of knew it was over at that point, and your identity as an athlete, as a baseball player, was over.
For sure. For sure.
Did you think that? Did you have that like thought at the time? Like,
I feel like that gradually got worse too. I feel like it hit me when I got home after that, but not until like a few months down the road. I would say maybe like 8 months where I was like really struggling with the identity loss.
like, were you depressed?
Oh, 1,000%. I mean, I got so depressed where, I mean, I actually almost like committed suicide actually. So it's been a long mental journey for me to where I'm at now. I mean, right now I could say truly I'm the happiest I've been in a long time. Like in this past year is like a point of like I'm the happiest I've been in a long time. In probably 6 years for sure.
Okay. Do you mind opening up about the mental struggles a little bit of the post, I guess we'll call it forced retirement?
Yeah.
Like you were depressed, you talked about suicide, which obviously is a very real topic that, you know.
Yeah, I'm going to try to hold the tears back on this when I get into this. So, backstory, what that led up to, I feel like, as much depression as I had is, so I have 2 younger brothers that I grew up with, right? I have 3 brothers, I have 1 sister, but 2 younger ones I grew up with, you know, from a baby. Those 2 brothers look up to me a lot, right? I'm like their older brother. Like, so when I started playing, and on top of that, like I said, I came from a low income family. Like we didn't have money growing up. So when I got drafted, my parents were crying. You know, ideally, I think everyone thought I was gonna be a millionaire at some point, right? Because we didn't know, like how much money you get when you get drafted. We didn't know like how long or if it was a guarantee that I make it to the big leagues. I thought that like, I don't know, maybe like a couple of years I'm in the big leagues on TV. I get my family out of like the struggle, like, and that was my whole mindset playing. It was like, how can I get my family out of like just the struggle, you know? Like, I'm not saying we're like struggling like badly, but just want to be like I thought I was like the person to take all my family out of that. And so when I got released, obviously, those thoughts and knowing that I wasn't going to be able to do that anymore, not through baseball at least, I just struggled for like that year about it, and I just held it in. I kept holding it in, and I feel like eventually it just all came to one big stress. Like I remember I freaking was struggling mentally. I was holding all these emotions in, trying to deal with them because I was struggling with identity loss. I couldn't take my family out of the financial struggle that we were like in. I let my little brothers down like as I feel like a failure to like, I feel like a failure. Like, Jesus Christ. I think as a professional athlete, you have so much passion for like what you're trying to do, and you're all in, right? There's no plan B. So when
there can't be a plan B.
There can't be because if there's a plan B, you already lost, right? So when I was done, I had nowhere to put that passion, and I was struggling. Like, I'm like, what do I do next? And I let my brother down. I feel like a failure. All my friends think I'm a failure. I'm thinking that people are like like making fun of me low key, like, and yeah, and I remember I had a breakup like with my my girlfriend at the time. I was like young, but I remember that just like compounded on top of all of the stuff I was dealing with, and then ended up like trying to commit suicide, bro. And it was pretty bad, like, and it took me a long time to like get out of the I don't know what to call it, like the mindset of like thinking I'm a failure, basically. So yeah, and I'm glad that I like really came back to what I do, doing what I love, like, because it saved me. It saved me like 1,000%. So yeah, it's pretty much like what happened like in that short time.
Okay, so this was like the year after you retired. You transitioned out of baseball. Mentally really struggled, feel like you let your family down, your friends down, your brothers. Big part of it. Financially, you're not going to be able to support your family anymore. You're not going to be able to get them out of there. All these people had expectations for you, and nobody had higher expectations for you than yourself. For sure. Probably.
For sure.
And now all of a sudden, it's like, I've identified as an athlete. I've put 110% of my life and my passion and my energy into being the best baseball player that I can possibly be.
For sure.
And now all of a sudden I'm 21, 22.
I think I was 23 or 22 or 23. Yeah.
And you have no idea what you're going to do with your life.
Yeah. No idea.
No idea. You moved back in with your parents at the time?
Yeah.
Or so you're just like with your parents, and then it's like you feel like a failure to all these people, including yourself. Mm-hmm. And mentally that was extremely difficult for you. Were you seeking therapy at the time, or were you just kind of like just internalizing everything?
Yeah, I didn't. I should have went to therapy. I didn't. I just was. To be honest, I was just hiding it. Like,
you didn't want to let anybody see.
Yeah, I was trying to just stay strong about it and just be like, I don't know. I don't even know what I was thinking. I think it was just, maybe I was hoping I was gonna just figure it out somehow, but I obviously didn't, because it got bad, It got bad, but yeah, and then I found fitness, and it brought me back. It brought me back to like who I am.
So you've always probably enjoyed exercise.
For sure.
You're an athlete, lifting weights. Maybe that's why you had kind of thought about football a little bit more when you were younger.
Yeah.
It kind of sparked a little bit of a fire or a passion in you, maybe more so than the baseball. So you found out about, your passion for personal training and online coaching, and maybe latched onto that. You mentioned earlier you didn't really want to pursue college. You probably maybe reconsidered that at the time, like, hey, what do I do? Maybe you tried that for a little while, maybe you didn't, but then you picked up on the personal training and the coaching. And I know we talked a little bit before the show about how it's been years that you've been like working on this and developing this, and you just mentioned that you're as happy as you've been now. Yeah. So it's like it's taken 5, 6, 7, 8 years to like find this new chapter of your life. Oh yeah.
It took me a long time, and I really didn't go to therapy, to be honest, and I just luckily got myself out of it, and I only did because I told myself, like, I was doing a different job after I played baseball. I had a shitty job, and I was like, I remember telling myself, I feel so bad right now that I don't care I'm doing what I love. I was like, I don't care. Like, I guess my advice to any athlete, pro, college, that are like struggling with the identity loss thing,
like after they retire, they're sort of forced out.
Yes, after they're done, if anyone's watching this, dude, if you have to do a shitty job to financially get by, don't ever quit on what you love to do, because that's exactly what I did, and that's exactly what got me out of my own mind, my own head, and thank God I did, because it's paying off now. Like, this is the biggest growth year I've had at Fit, in terms of like client sales, and I really feel like I'm catching my stride. I feel like I'm going in the right direction for the first time in a long time. So
yeah. So you work at Fit Athletic Club in
Yeah.
Little Italy, San Diego,
Yes.
and you've been employed there for...
This will be my 10th month, 11th month.
Okay, so coming up on a year.
Almost,
You
yeah.
were a personal trainer and online coach before that, probably for a little while.
Yeah, just for a little bit.
Independent or maybe at another club or something?
Both, yeah. Both.
Okay. And you're just super passionate about this now. You've kind of transitioned out of the baseball career. Now you're pouring your energy and your effort into this, which really speaks to you, and you're passionate about this.
1000%.
But you were saying, just to kind of rewind for a second, you know, you transition out of playing high school, college, pro ball. You might have to get a job to pay the bills.
For sure.
And that might suck, but don't ever give up on what you are truly passionate about.
For sure.
Even if you have to do it part-time,
Never.
on the side.
Never
don't
do that.
get stuck doing something that you don't want to do.
Yeah,
Because it can, you know, and I'm a personal trainer as well, right? So we can kind of collectively speak about this. It can take a while to build up.
Oh, yeah.
As a personal trainer or as anything, a YouTuber, of a content creator, or whatever, like it, you start out with nothing.
Yeah.
But if you're passionate about it,
you'll figure it out.
you'll figure it out.
For sure.
So you did that. You worked at kind of a shitty job for a while, and then you didn't give up on this dream of being a personal trainer and online fitness coach. And now here you are, super successful, crushing it. Sales, you know, combination sales, customer service position for those people, you know, that don't really know what personal training entails. A lot of sales components to it.
Yeah.
And you're like thriving now.
Yeah.
So you've come a long way in just a few years from that kind of depression that you were in to where you are now.
And and I am the happiest I've ever been because I'm doing what I love to do, for sure. And, you know, with the training side, talking about the reason why I think is like, I truly now, when I transform, when I can give somebody with no confidence, I mean, I'm sure you experience this for sure. You're a trainer. You've been training for a couple of years now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know the feeling when you can get someone that has like low confidence, you know, they're looking a little overweight, you know, you get them to lose weight, and they start acting different, they start talking different, they start dressing different. That feeling is way more powerful and way more fulfilling than I've ever had with sports. I could even say I would almost compare the day I got drafted, that same feeling I get when I transform someone and they're like, hey man, like I really appreciate you. Like you changed my life. Like that feeling, I'm addicted to it. So like when we do the sales and stuff and the money comes in, like it's cool for a second, but the fulfilling part is not that. Like the money comes with that, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what really got me out of like my mental struggles, basically, and just doing what I love to do. But yeah, back to what he says, like you know, talking on the mental side for athletes watching this, like don't ever give up on what you like, even if it's like something small, like just do it on the side, like, and never give up on it, and just keep working at it.
Yeah,
because that'll eventually grow. Yeah,
chip away 1% at a time. And I'm guessing, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm guessing because you are an older brother, because you had your younger brothers looking up to you, I'm sort of thinking that maybe your calling as a personal trainer is, I don't know if you've ever thought about this before, but maybe related to the fact that you were so, you had such a desire to like help your little brothers, that like maybe you helping personal training clients is kind of a window into that like helping personality. Like you really care about like bringing other people up. Would you say that's true at all, or?
Yeah, every time you bring my brother, I mean, as you can see, I like, oh my God.
They're very special to you.
Yeah. They are, Sorry.
It's all right.
Yeah.
Talk about why they're so special to you. Why does this, this clearly matters to you a lot. Whether it's baseball, whether it's personal training, like family is huge for you.
Yeah, I think, oh, man, sorry.
It's all right.
I think like everybody has their purpose, right? Why they do anything. In this life, right? It's whether it's like your kids, your family, maybe it's like, I don't know. For me, it's just my brothers and my family just means a lot. So like the time where I was like feeling like I let them down for the next, like they seen me like visually depressed, I guess. And that like sucked.
You were destroyed.
Oh yeah. That sucked. So like now Jesus, can't even talk. Now I feel like I'm finally back and like proud to like for them to like look up to me now, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like you're back to a place where you're thriving and you're feeling good and you're
you're
doing well, and like you actually feel like, and you've always been their big brother, you always will be, and
right.
But you feel like you're back in a position now where they can be like proud of you.
For sure.
You're doing something that's like really means something, and you're making a good salary, and you're doing good in this world, and like you feel like you can be somebody that they're proud of now. They've always been proud of you, no matter what it is, but now you feel like you're kind of back happy, on your feet, thriving, like somebody that they can be proud of.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like because I'm always trying to be like their leader, like the way I carry myself, like how hard I work, and like for a long time I was not that, like for a couple of years. So now I feel like I'm back, and like it took me a long time, but now, jeez, I can't even crying on this shit. So that's why, man. And if anybody has younger siblings, they know, if you're close to them, and like my youngest brother is about to graduate with a master's. It's fucking amazing, And he's told me, he's like, many times, he's like, man, I always look up to you, like, and it's like, that means a lot, Jesus.
Yeah, of course, man.
Ooh. Damn,
so even through your tough times, you mean a lot to them, and I'm sure now, like, they saw what you went through that dark time, and then you pulled yourself back up again by your bootstraps, and even that's inspiring for them, I'm sure, because they've probably gone through ups and downs in their life, and they see you and how you conduct yourself and how you go about your business and what you're passionate about, and they see that. That's even more inspiring to them.
Yeah,
because everybody goes through something. They went through something too. Maybe they were athletes. Maybe they, whatever it was. So like, that's very inspiring. Thank you for sharing that.
No, I'm glad too. I think, everyone goes through something. There's down times, there's dark times. For me, that was mine, and I think I push as hard as I do because of them. So that's why I get so, emotional.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom and dad too, for sure. But like, I don't know. My brothers are just like, we're close,
Yeah. Sounds like you have a really special relationship with them.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm crying on here, man.
No, absolutely. It's totally fine. Like, I'm glad it's obviously very like emotional for you. I'm glad that you're bringing that to this. This matters. Like it matters for you. Like anybody listening, watching this can like see how much this matters to you. Obviously, like words are words, but like clearly very this whole story has been emotional for you. It was emotional when you were an athlete. You had to transition out of that, kind of figuring out your own life. And this is real. Sure. Everything that's happening right now that we're talking about and what's happened in your life, like this is behind the curtain.
Oh,
like, this kind of story that you're telling me right now has probably happened to every single other person, if not sort of professional athlete, collegiate athlete. Like this stuff happens to everybody behind the curtain. And we don't see that. So this kind of story is very important because, and this podcast at large is focused on shining light onto these sorts of stories, the real stories that athletes experience and the mental struggles that they go through. Like this whole story about baseball and your life and your brothers and your family and how, you lost a sense of direction and meaning in your life as an identity, as you identified as a baseball player, and how that absolutely just destroyed you when it was time to move on. Depression, we talked about, possibly committing suicide, like who knows what else was swimming around up in there. Like you were probably just working some job that you hated. Like this happens, maybe not to everybody, but to a lot of people. And all we see is like the perfectly curated stories on social media about the people making it and like smiling with their girlfriends or like the beautiful house that they're in or whatever. And it's like, if we looked at your social media page, like we wouldn't see any of this. Nobody would know anything about this. No. I mean, you probably haven't talked about this in years, maybe if not ever.
No, I really haven't talked about it, especially when, not on camera at least.
Right. Sure. So this is great. It's like a semi-documentary of your life. And this is really cool that you're sharing this with everybody. So thank you for that.
Oh, yeah. No, you're welcome. And I think, for any like athlete watching this, like if you did go through it, you aren't alone, man. You're definitely not alone. Like it is not easy. And I think it's hard to like, I feel like when I was going through like this depression time, some people, not everybody, I feel like some people like would wonder why I feel like I was so down on myself, especially because of the level where I got, and then I got paid for it. Like, oh, you should be proud of yourself. Like you went so far. Like, it's like, but you don't understand like the time and the passion and the extra hours that went into it. And when you, like I said earlier, like when you take an athlete that has so much passion, because everyone does, anyone who plays a professional sport, you have so much passion and it has to go somewhere. Like you can't just tuck it in. Like, and I did that for like so many years. I'm like, I'm just gonna live the regular life. Make some money, go have fun on the weekend, have a party. Like, as I was single at the time, like, go out with some girls, like that's cool, but like it doesn't fulfill like usually no purpose. Yeah. So that's why I was like I reiterated it all the time about like if you got to do a shitty job, everyone has to do it too. Like you're not the only one, but don't give up on like whatever you love to do, whether it's like painting or growing a business or some music or something. Like just don't give up on that.
Yeah,
for sure.
And I think this speaks to the sort of personality trait of athletes and the amount of dedication and passion it takes to get to that level. Mm-hmm. You have a fire inside of you that burns for whatever it is that you're pursuing.
Oh, like 1,000%.
And when you are no longer an athlete anymore, whether it's because you're forced into retirement through injury or through like just not good enough, like whatever it is, like, and even the best of the best athletes, the Hall of Famers, the guys that play for 20 years and they retire, like Father Time is undefeated. Mm-hmm. Everybody has to retire at some point, and maybe it's when you're 23, maybe it's when you're 40 after you've played 18 seasons at the professional level. What do you do with that fire after you've retired? It's still in there. It's always going to be in there.
For sure.
And if you don't if you can't find a way to redirect that and channel it into something else,
Yep.
like even Tom Brady, the guy's got 7 rings, and like
And millions
more
of
money than he could ever figure out. Like, we're talking about operating on a different level of
He might
finances.
be in the billions. No,
Probably
close.
Probably.
But-
And the guy is like,
still working.
he's working. He's a color guy.
He's a sports analyst, right?
Yeah, for like Fox or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, don't you want to like spend time with your family or like go golf or something? But it's like, this guy is so passionate.
You can't. That's what I was trying to explain earlier. You can't like these like pro athletes. You can't just not use that.
You can't just turn it off.
No, you can't turn it off.
So he's got to direct that somewhere else.
Somewhere, for
he
sure.
loves football so much that he would rather like do anything related to football than like hang out at home.
Yeah.
He's probably depressed. I mean, we've seen Tiger Woods, like all this kind of stuff with him, and like that's been a very public story. Actually, one that I appreciate from a mental performance coach perspective. Like, who knows what's going on behind the scenes with that guy?
Oh man, and he's going through a divorce and stuff.
Drugs,
Yeah.
divorces, and he's got his kids. And so now, actually, I think like for those of you who are kind of up to speed in the golf world, right? His son Charlie Woods is like 15 or 16 now. Like he's coming up, and now I think Tiger, who kind of floundered a bit there when he dealt with all these injuries and like drug issues and
and the women thing.
who knows what else is going on behind the scene. He kind of floundered. Now I think his purpose, right? He's still technically a professional golfer. I don't think we'll see him win another tournament. But I think his purpose now, that fire that we were just talking about, is going into Charlie.
Yeah, I see that on social media
now.
for sure.
So
for
it's
sure.
like he's found a new
Same thing with.
direction.
I mean, I wish we could. Wish we could ask him, but I'm sure for a little while, like that fire, he probably either he was so stressed with the background stuff that he couldn't redirect that. But like, you don't just it just doesn't turn off. It doesn't turn off. It has to go somewhere.
Right.
And hopefully it's in it's a positive way, because it could go into negative things too.
Definitely
with drinking, drugs, stuff like that. Like So
those are the stories you don't like to hear about.
Yeah.
I mean, what was it? The Mike Tyson, Jake Paul fight recently? Like, I don't know what all the financials are behind that whole situation, but it's like, a lot of these like professional athletes, they get used to living this lifestyle. They have all this money and then they retire or they, whatever. They don't have that source of income anymore. And then they're like bankrupt. And it's just like, it's just kind of a sad story, but like to your point, like that fire, that passion has to go somewhere after you retire.
Yeah. And mine went to personal training for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you see all, like, I do a lot of content stuff behind it. Like, I don't get paid for any of that.
Yes.
It has a purpose for it, but like, it's really coming from just like pure like ambition. Like, I want to grow. And like I'm doing anything I can. I mean, look, we're doing a podcast on a Saturday afternoon.
Right.
Like my friends are like
all week.
Yeah, I'm my group chat. My friends are like, you guys want to go bowling and get drinks? I'm like, not really. Like, nah, I don't. Like, So, for me, like you see it firsthand. We work together. Like I work with like such a passion that like I'm glad that I got to redirect that. Into it for sure.
And where can people find more about your personal training and online coaching if they want to find out more about you?
Yeah, so on my Instagram for sure is the easiest way. My Instagram handle is Fukofuka95. I wish I could change it. I can't even change it because it's verified.
Okay.
But that's my handle. And on there, you can in the bio, I have a website. You can join and book a call with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll put that in the show note captions afterwards so people can figure out like where to find more about you.
Awesome.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about like, the mental performance side of baseball. So we kind of got the whole picture now, more or less, the story, the origin, the pro ball, the retirement, if you will, and kind of the mental fallout, and now what you're doing right now. Let's kind of rewind a little bit. Let's talk about sort of like the meat of what I hope to talk about today being the mental performance side of baseball and things that you did, techniques that you used, things you know about now that you wish you would have known about, sort of that pay it forward, like if you were an athlete now, like if you were like a coach, like a baseball coach or a mental performance coach in my position, what would you tell like the younger guys, like in middle school, high school, the guys that are trying to make it? Like, let's talk about that a little bit. So
sure.
Specifically, are there any mental performance techniques or skills that you wish you had learned earlier in your career? Or, you know, and if so, how do you believe they would have helped you succeed?
Yeah, the biggest one, it really is only one. And the biggest one is it sounds cliche as shit, but if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Okay, so you referenced that earlier with the swing coach and the whole...
Yeah. Because I had techniques like on how to calm down. I was good at that, on like breathing techniques. But in terms of like a skill or something that I wish I knew earlier, that would 100% be my biggest advice. Is like I said, in a baseball specific way, you know, I basically take this in any sport. And when you're playing and you're playing at a high level and you're doing well and things are feeling good, you know, confidence is at an all-time high, do not listen to anybody. Like, I don't even care if it's your head coach, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister. They don't know like what's clicking, right? So whether it's like you doing a certain warm-up or like whether you have some type of ritual, like they don't know. So when things are going well and you're playing well and you're playing at a high, I would just say don't fix anything until you're struggling and you need it. Then maybe reach out to someone like a professional and get like some small advice that you trust. But whoever you get your advice from, you want to stick to that person, because you start getting advice from every other person. And if in baseball, for me, like for example, there was like all these coaches played in the big leagues, so you can get information easy, but you don't want to listen to everybody, right? Then the opinions start getting mixed and it's confusing. So that'd be it. Like if it's not broke, don't fix it. Don't listen. If it's working, don't change anything.
Okay, so maybe kind of like simplify things. Don't overthink.
For sure.
So like you might be getting advice from a bunch of different angles. If you trust one person specifically and you're struggling, then maybe you can think about implementing some things. But if what you're doing is working and you're still getting feedback from other people, particularly people that you don't trust or you don't know that well, be a little bit hesitant.
Well, even if you trust them, like I said, like if it's working, like because I've had times where like it's working, and then like my coach that I'm really close with will tell me something, and I just kind of just like it goes in the ear without the other, because it's just whatever I'm doing is working. Because here's the thing I learned is that if you're doing something right and it's working and you keep doing it, like they're just gonna dab you up and say good job, bro. Like maybe they think they helped you in some way, but like you don't want to keep taking any advice if it's working. That's all.
So you know best. You know yourself best.
You know
you're your own expert.
Every athlete does.
It's important, I think, to listen and have like an open mindset to coaching, but you don't necessarily have to implement everything. Like be open to constructive criticism and don't get defensive about it, because a lot of people get like very defensive about like constructive criticism, which is something I've talked about recently on some of my other content. But you know, have an open mind, but be cautious about how you implement things, especially if what you're doing right now is working. It's basically kind of the takeaway there, I think.
For sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Baseball itself as a sport is full of ups and downs. Wins, losses, you're going 4 for 4 one game, next game you're 0 for 4, strikeouts. How did you handle setbacks like tough losses, injuries, or any slumps that you may have had? Did you use any mental strategies to handle difficult situations like that?
With baseball, like I said, you struggle over 70% of the time usually. You know, you're struggling only 70%, which sounds crazy, then you're killing it. No one needs to help you. But to get out of struggles, man, when I was doing well, because I can remember back when, like, the season that I killed it, my third year, I had the best positive self-talk, and it is so important. The little voice in your head, even now, to this day, I take that. There's times I'll, like, do something, and I'll be like, good job. Like, you did a good job today. Which just sounds funny, but, like really, like, the voice in your head matters so much, especially as an athlete. And just even as a person, like that, like I could look at somebody who's confident, and I know for a fact in their head they're like, "I'm the fucking man," or like their positive self talk is just so good. So when I was struggling, when the only thing that could get you out of your own head is like tell yourself like say you had a bad day, it'd be like, all right, today's a new day. It doesn't matter what happened yesterday. Like, turn the page. For baseball, we use a term. We like to say one pitch at a time, meaning like nothing in the world matters except that single pitch, and then you move on to the next pitch, and then that pitch matters. Like we use that a lot in baseball. But yeah, it'd be take everything and live in the moment, and then when that moment's over, act like it didn't happen and just focus on the next moment, whatever that is.
Okay, so kind of like a mindfulness of being in the present moment.
For sure.
And it sounds super cliche. We
We
hear athletes talk about this all the time when they're being interviewed, like post-game or like by, the sideline reporters or whatever. And they're like, I'm just trying to take it one at bat at a time or one shot. Like in golf, it's just like one shot at a time.
Yep.
Like it sounds super cliche, but that's the best way to handle slumps because it doesn't matter that you struck out the last at bat. It fucking doesn't matter whatsoever. It doesn't even matter if you just swung at a terrible pitch on the same at bat.
Right.
The only thing that you can control
is the next
pitch.
Yep.
And if you're stuck in the past about a bad at bat or a bad game or whatever else, it's going to impact you currently. So it's super important, like you were saying, to have that positive self-talk mindset of like, I'm the fucking man. I'm going to hit a home run or I'm going to hit a single or whatever it is. Like the mindset of like, I got this, because anything else that you say to yourself is going to detract from your performance.
Right. 100%. And I seen it firsthand. I got to play with the best, like I said, the best in the world, like the best of the best. And the guys that really got it, I swear to you, they do not give a single fuck if they strike out or not. Anything they're literally moment to moment, like pitch to pitch. They're living in that moment. Because you'll see it, like you see it all the time. The guys will strike out 3 times in a row. Their fourth at bat, they hit a home run and win the game. And they're like, this guy's fucking unbelievable. But really, his mental game is just the mental game is unbelievable, really.
Bulletproof.
Yeah, like nothing's going to get in their mind except they can control what just happened and not even think for a single second of the past.
Yeah.
And those are the guys that just separate themselves. Because it's not athletic ability. Because I'll tell you firsthand, it's all mine. I had more athletic ability than half the league as playing now. And I just, mentally, they're just there,
Yeah. Guys like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant talk about this a lot, where it's like you could go 0 for 10, but you're still going to be the one taking the last shot, and you have to absolutely have complete confidence that the shot is going in. You know it's going in before you even take it, and you went 0 for 10 that game, but you already forgot about those shots. They literally don't care. You have the shortest memory. You have the memory of a goldfish.
Yeah.
All that matters is the current play and the shot that you're about to take, and that it's going to go in.
Yep, with confidence.
Same thing with baseball, same thing with, obviously these are superlatives that are true across all sports. So positive self-talk, you would say, is like a big thing that helped you get over like slumps, bad games, tough losses.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's times, I had a year and a half where I would I had bad self-talk. But I can say this with confidence that it's very important, because I had times where I had bad self-talk and it literally drains you. You lose self-confidence, like you start doubting yourself for no reason, just because the little voice in your head went from, don't worry about it, just get it the next time, to damn, I shouldn't have swung at that last pitch, or damn, I was long on that last one. Man, I hope I don't do the same thing the next time. Like, that difference is like will change your game completely.
Did you catch yourself when you were doing that, or it's only like retrospectively thinking back that you had those thoughts? Were you aware of it at the time when you had negative self-talk?
Like, I was aware of it, but I mean, obviously not completely, because I would still be playing. But right. I guess I didn't understand the importance of it, I guess. You know, I did it, and I feel like I did it more when I was doing well, and I caught certain like streaks of, but instead of really not caring and focusing on this positive self-talk, I didn't conquer that technique, I guess I would say. Mm-hmm. Now I did, like on my day-to-day basis now I'll say something to myself, and if I say something bad to myself, I'll switch it immediately. I'm like, no, like, I'm fine, like, you know. Yeah. And it changes you.
It does.
You know, you go from a little bit of stress and depressed that could change you into like a positive, like, learning lesson, even if it's bad.
Yeah, and to that point, that actually kind of plays into the next question that I wanted to ask you. I'm guessing, because I noticed this as a personal trainer, when other people are having negative self-talk, we hear that immediately because we're so used to switching it from negative to positive. So as a personal trainer and fitness coach, does mental performance, like, what role does mental performance play in your job now? Like, as in sort of how you coach and mentor younger athletes or other people, like, do you actively use mental performance techniques now for yourself and for your clients?
100%. I think it's a huge, I would almost say, if I could guess, like 50%, because, you know, I think I feel like a lot of people know what they're supposed to do. Like, they know what healthy foods are as a coach. I don't really mentor a lot of like younger kids. Usually just like my brother's still playing, so I talk to him a lot, but more obviously like the clients that I work with, which are like, you know, I'd say range from like mid-20s to like 40, 50, you know, wide range. But a lot of times, like, they'll doubt themselves and they like, I messed up this weekend, I ate this or that, and I'll quickly kill it, and I'd be like, you know, it could have been worse. You know, maybe you ate pizza, like, all right, you know, did you drink? They're like, no, like, all right, you could have drank and ate pizza. So now they're like, all right, I'm good. You know, I try to switch and take the positive out of everything that they're doing, because, you know, everyone's fitness journey is not perfect. There's no one that's like, very rare, someone's like, they're doing every single thing you're saying. They don't cheat. They're doing every push-up, every squat you tell them to do. But when...
It's just not realistic.
It's just not realistic. So when they fail, I for sure, especially like beginners, I will like quickly kill whatever negative feedback they're giving me and then turn it into something positive. So and for the mental side, that's what I do a lot. I really, you know, point out the things that they're doing good. Okay. And try to build off that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Try to make them have, you know, it's not that they failed. They might have slipped up a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? They might not have acted in such a way that, you know, maybe they feel like they let you down. Mm-hmm. Maybe they acted in a way that they would like to have taken back as far as like their diet or whatever. And we just finished the holidays, so you're probably dealing with this as much as I am, with like clients coming back and, I didn't exercise that much and my diet, this and that. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, pretty much every single in-body scan that I've done, you know, body composition scan for my clients has been negative. It's been up. But you know what? I'm still positive with my clients about it. Because
you have to
we talk about this all the time as far as like, you know, making progress. I like to relate it to like the stock market, okay? You buy a stock, you got, you know, 12 months. Every single month, it's not up. Just like if you're trying to lose body fat, like every single time you do a scan, it's not down. It's like down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, down, right? So the past month, for most people following their fitness journeys, was like not in the right direction.
Yeah, I kind of just trying to...
But it's okay.
Yeah.
It's fine. We're back to it. It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
Like, this is all part of the journey. It's important to relax and enjoy your time with your family and
For sure.
whatever, like put a positive spin on it. So I think that's super important, whether it's for athletes that are going through a slump. Just understand you're not going to be 4 for 4 every game. Like, as long as you're hitting 300, you're doing well. So don't get down on yourself immediately. Just like we advise our personal training clients, don't get down on yourself because you had one bad scan. Like, it's not a big deal. You're going to be fine.
Yeah, like the only thing you can do is progress from here. Yeah.
Right. If you could go back and sort of talk to your younger self, or maybe this is how you talk to your brothers, like we just talked about sort of the positive self-talk, right? Is there any other piece of mental performance advice that you would give to your brothers or to your younger self that you feel like would have made a difference in your career?
For baseball, you're talking?
Yeah, for baseball. So this is sort of the question where we're transporting you back to your younger self, or anybody that might be listening that's either currently an athlete or a younger athlete. Any piece of mental performance advice other than the positive self-talk that you would give that you think would have helped you perform better, more consistently, or whatever it is?
Yeah, I the only other thing I did personally for the mental side, but this is very baseball specific, is because baseball is a kind of weird sport. It's like one of these sports that like it's not ongoing, so there's a lot of breaks in between. So I wouldn't do anything until I got my heart rate down. So I used breathing techniques, so deep breaths, hold for a second, out slowly, out through the mouth. I would use that. That was like a really good technique that I would use. If my heart rate was up, say like I was in a big moment, or I was, the crowd's cheering, maybe guys are on base, you're about to get up to bat. I would not step into the batter's box until I got my heart rate to relax. I don't even know what BPM it would be. I guess it's like, I don't know, 65. I don't know. But I would let my heart rate come down because you can feel it, when you're excited, you feel excited. You're like, oh shit. Like
your heart, you can feel your heart beating in your chest. You're breathing a little faster.
Yes.
It's what we call sympathetic nervous system overactivation. It prepares us for, it's a stress response. So it boosts your adrenaline, you're vasodilating, your pupils are opening up a little bit more, but it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it can actually detract from performance.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
If you're too amped up.
For sure.
Like if you're standing over a putt on the green and you're like fucking amped up, like that's not great.
No.
Just like if you're at bat and you're super amped up, like you're probably going to be swinging at something in the dirt.
You're not swinging at anything.
You need to be, but you can't be too under aroused either. This is actually a theory we call the inverted U theory, where if you're under aroused, you're going to be like a little too like slow, distracted, a little too slow, a little bit like
that makes
underactivated.
Sense.
And then if you're too activated, you're going to be like really tense and just like jittery and jumpy and kind of you got the yips. But there's this sweet spot in the middle where you have just enough activation where you're like in the zone, kind of that flow state, like dialed in. Like you don't want to be too far either end of the spectrum.
That happy medium.
So if you're too amped up and you're in the batter's box, this is exactly what you're talking about. Taking a couple of breaths activates what's called your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your sort of rest and recover.
Okay.
So you have the parasympathetic and you've got the sympathetic nervous system. These are two opposite ends of the spectrum. Your sympathetic is your fight or flight. It's like there's a fucking bear right there. Like I'm gonna jack up my adrenaline. My muscles are ready for activation. Right. If you've ever given like a public speech before or something like that, it's the kind of feeling that you go. You get right before you get on stage where you're like your heart is like slamming anxious in your chest. Or if you're like going to talk to this like beautiful girl that you like see over there. And you're like, you're a little nervous about it, right? So that's it's a stimulation response. To come back from that, you take a couple of breaths. It activates what's called your parasympathetic nervous system response.
Okay.
Slows your heart rate down a little bit, kind of widens your area of focus a little bit so that you're not quite so like overactivated. You can kind of, you pay attention to the fielders a little bit more. Like, exactly. You pay attention to your coach, and now you're ready to step into the box. So it sounds like you utilized a breathing technique.
Yeah, we use that, and we also use like I think we call it like a focal point, where like you choose like something that you stared at something or chose something that you can go to when you're feeling like that. A lot of people would use like the foul pole. They'd look like into the outfield and like stare at it until their heart rate came down, or like some people use like a spot on their bat. Mm-hmm. So I would do that. I would like I would like look at my bat, take a deep breath, maybe a couple if I needed, and then I'd go. So that would be my only other advice in terms of mental performance.
Okay. Yeah, so kind of what you referenced there is a combination of two things, it sounds like. One being like a pre-shot routine.
Yep.
So you probably had some sort of a routine that you went through every time.
For sure.
Tap your feet, no
yeah.
more.
Oh yeah, that's another one. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. I'd say you have your routine plus the breathing technique and then a focal point.
Because when you're at bat, the goal is always the same. Just like, when you're shooting a free throw, goal is always the same.
Yeah.
So you want to, this is actually one of the most predominant like mental performance skills that people either should be doing, or if they're doing it, like it's why they do it. You want to put yourself in the same mental and physical state every single time before you go to bat. Because it doesn't matter if it's the top of the first inning or the bottom of the ninth.
Yep.
And the bases are loaded and there's 2 outs and you're in the championship game. Mm-hmm. If you get a single, that's what you need, given different contexts.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't change your approach at all. You want to put yourself in the same mental and physical state. So a pre-shot routine does that. Looking at the foul pole could be part of that. Looking at your bat, whatever. There's also what's known as a grounding technique. Grounding techniques are, for example, tuning in with a specific sense. So like feeling the bat in your hand, or like smelling the grass, or tuning into specific senses is like a meditation mindfulness technique, where it basically brings your awareness more internally, which can help calm you down because maybe you're distracted by the other team or the crowd or the score, whatever. If you focus on a specific point, that focal point is like a grounding, like mindfulness.
That's actually interesting. I didn't
technique.
know a smelling one would be.
Yeah.
How would you do that one if that's hard, right?
So depends on the context, but like a swimmer, for example. I've worked with swimmers before. They're kind of in the back, stretching or warming up. You walk out onto the pool deck, you smell the chlorine. So if you just like walked out onto the baseball diamond, like
it's like sport specific.
It can be sport. It can be sport specific.
Oh, okay.
So but if you walked out onto the baseball diamond and you really like
could smell
took a minute, you could smell the grass.
Yeah.
So tuning into your senses is a common anxiety reducing technique.
Okay.
A lot of people when I meditate, a lot of times I'll like close my eyes. Even, I don't know if you've seen me when I'm exercising, sometimes like I'll close my eyes if I'm like walking backwards on the treadmill or something.
Maybe I think I have seen you do that.
So the reason I do that is because we have so many stimuli in our eyes, our optic, because we observe, we can smell, we can hear, we can touch, we can taste, we have all these different senses, but we live most of our life visually. If you close your eyes, you can immediately start to tune in to your other senses, because you're no longer distracted by anything that you're looking at. And so me, for example, when I work out, I like to focus on what I'm doing, because I believe that I'm going to get more out of my workout if I'm focused exactly on my workout. I'm not distracted by these people over here doing whatever it is that they're doing. Like it's a focus technique. So you can use different senses like smell, taste, touch, etc. Again, it could be like feeling the bat in your hands. Like a lot of batters like kind of kick the ground a couple of times. Like these sorts of things are ways that even visually, like looking at the foul pole. So what I'm hearing you say, and a lot of people do this, is that you use these techniques, you just really weren't aware of what they were called.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So these are all like mental performance techniques that
I didn't
use.
For sure. I didn't know like the science behind it or anything.
Right.
It's kind of like taught to me probably through like we had a mental performance coach, but like
With the Royals?
yeah, but
Yeah.
it just wasn't like a big focus because
Yeah.
there's one coach and like so many guys. Like,
Right.
So they just teach you the technique without the science behind it. So this is cool to like hear.
I find personally, and this is how I actually conduct my personal training, and I don't know if you do this, but I have a master's degree in sport and exercise psychology, and I've always been like kind of a science-based guy. Like when I'm training people, my personal training clients, like I will explain to them what we're doing and why we're doing it.
Yeah,
Not
I've
just
heard you teach before. I like it. I love that. I love
not
it.
just like this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
So like it sounds like the Kansas City Royals had a mental performance coach, and he might have recommended that you do these things, but not told you why.
Yeah, exactly.
And I find that for me personally, and a lot of my clients have actually given me feedback that this resonates with them. Now everybody's different. Some people don't really care. It's like when you go to the car mechanic and like some people are just like, I don't care what's wrong with it, just fix it. So,
you could see who cares too.
Exactly.
Some people are just like, oh, okay, and they're like,
Yeah.
all right, you won't have to go into detail, but some people like are like, why are we doing this?
Right,
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
So I don't, I try not to over explain to people that like don't really care. They're just there for a workout. But there are other people that
are very
they care and they want to know. In fact, I've had people train with me specifically because they saw that I had a master's degree and they knew that I could explain the minutia and the background information behind why it is that we're doing exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. That's
So
good.
mental performance techniques are the same way. Like you had a coach that was telling you to like look at a specific point, but he didn't tell you why you're doing that. If he had explained a little bit more thoroughly why you were doing that, you might have understood the importance of it more instead of just being like, well, this is just something that he said I should do.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
And then you could do with that information what you would, but for me personally, I think it's more helpful when somebody explains why.
I agree.
Are we doing something?
Yeah, I'm like that for sure. Like if I'm gonna pay for somebody, I want to learn. Like if I'm paying for anything, I want to know exactly why we're doing it. Because if you don't, I am not working with you anymore. I'll tell you that.
It makes it less believable.
Yeah, and then I'm like, you're just blowing smoke up my ass.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
yeah.
So I think that's definitely one thing for our listeners is that like, and part of why I started this podcast is because I want to be sort of boots on the ground, interacting with athletes such as yourself, talking about techniques that you may or may not have used, and specifically explaining why these techniques would be important in helping you perform better. So this pre-shot routine, this grounding technique, like I talked about a little bit earlier, I don't want to get too scientific about it, but the activation of the parasympathetic nervous system calms your nervous system down so that when you're in that high pressure situation before you're at bat, that is why we're doing that mental performance technique, because it's going to put you in more of a zone of optimal performance. That's why we do that. So that would be how I would coach an athlete on using that technique.
Yep.
So you were doing some of that stuff, a lot of it sounds like, but you just weren't really aware why.
Yeah.
So you think that would have been more helpful for you if you knew why?
Oh yeah, I for sure would have understood the importance of, and then from there, I mean, because there's so many techniques. Like you just named like 6 or something.
I did.
But like, I probably would have like try different ones and like maybe see what worked for me. I didn't really even do that. So like, that's a good perspective. And then also, I have a question for you. So I felt like I had a little bit of an advantage for high pressure situations because of football. Like I played under the lights in playoff games, championships. So when I got to baseball, I did feel like I had a little bit of an advantage to the guys that are just baseball players because it's a little bit of a quieter sport, you would say, like compared to football, like in high school especially. But like, what would you tell someone to prepare that didn't get that experience? Or how would you like mimic that high pressure situation? Would you just have to be like through trial and error, like, or is there like something that you could do specifically? Maybe like jump out of an airplane, or I don't know.
Great question.
Yeah.
And you're on the right track already. So the answer to that question, and you're absolutely right, I think that you did have an advantage over those other players because you were sort of more systematically desensitized to the high pressure because the entire football game is a lot more, even like play to play, like every single play in football
you're hitting somebody.
is aggressive, high-paced, fast.
For
so
sure.
it's like you become more used to that.
Yeah.
So that's what we call sort of a systematic desensitization or a normalization to that stress. So therefore, baseball, when you're at bat, it's like a high pressure situation, but it's like not as much. It's like the top of the first, like maybe nobody's on base. Like it's not really, like obviously you still want to get a hit, but it's not like as high pressure. So the answer to your question, at least one of the predominant ways that I coach people on how to handle this is visualization.
Okay.
So imagery and visualization and sort of guided meditation. And what I mean by that is, and you can do this, there's a whole protocol for training yourself up to specific situations. But what you want to do is, this is where sort of mental performance techniques come into play in terms of differentiating two athletes of similar physical capabilities. The one that trains mentally is going to be more likely to succeed. And here's why. Because if you do sort of a visualization or an imagery exercise in which you would start like in the quiet of your own home, close your eyes or go through some sort of a script where you visualize in your head that it's, and the more detail, the better. So it takes some time to build up to this, but the more like vivid you can make this picture, the better. What you would do is you would imagine to yourself that it's for example, state championship game, and you're either losing by a run or the score is tied and it's the bottom of the 9th inning and there's 2 men on or the bases are loaded and the crowd is just going ape shit. Maybe you're on the road, so it's a little bit of a hostile environment. That's the more vivid that you can make this, the better. The more over activating you can make this, the better. You would visualize that scenario in your head, and then you would visualize yourself getting a hit.
Okay.
And winning the game. You because here's the thing, the brain can't tell the difference between when something is actually happening and when you visualize it in your head. You develop the same neural connections. So if you can put yourself in a stressful situation before you're in a stressful situation, you actually train your body to be better prepared for that. So that would be one thing I would say. The other thing that you can do, so that might not be that stressful for you, then what you can do is you can either take a separate technique and do something like an ice bath.
Okay.
Or you can combine an ice bath with your visualization technique. Now, if anybody's never done an ice bath before, I'm guessing you have.
Yeah, an ice bath.
It's extremely uncomfortable and overstimulating. In fact, a lot of people, the reason that they can't do it is because they have a panic attack.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because you stop breathing, so you start hyperventilating.
I've seen that.
The water is so cold that your brain is literally screaming at you to get out of the water. It's so stressful. You release insane amounts of like cortisol into your bloodstream, stress chemicals, because imagine you fell off a boat into a freezing lake. You are in full panic mode because your brain realizes, I'm going to die. That's literally the response that your brain has. I'm going to die. So when you voluntarily put yourself in an ice bath, what you're doing is you are desensitizing yourself to a stressful situation and learning how to cope with that in a controlled environment.
Right.
Therefore, when you are actually put into a stressful situation, you are much better equipped at handling the influx of hormones and adrenaline and these sorts of things because you've had that happen before.
Yeah.
And you're going to be able to be more calm in that situation. So combination of those sort of techniques could be a good way.
Yeah.
for a baseball player to, bring this back to the original question, to, for example, train themselves how to better handle a stressful situation.
And actually, you talking about that, I think I do remember doing that. Now that you're just pointing it out, I mean, like I said, this is a long time ago. I haven't played it since 2017.
Yeah.
Like, so like now I remember, because I remember like when I would have like the good year I'm talking about, like I would, before I get to the plate, I would already picture in my mind like me smashing the ball before getting up to the plate.
So you were already visualizing that you were getting a hit.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking back about this, I do remember doing that.
Yep.
Now that you're saying, I just didn't like specifically know what they're called. I just would do it, I guess.
Right.
So actually, yeah, that's another one. Just visualizing success, and you doing what you want to do. So that was great. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely one thing, and I think there's a lot of athletes that fall into that category that they might do some of these things, they might not. A coach might have, in high school or something, like told them like, visualize like yourself getting a hit or whatever, but that's it.
Yeah,
right?
that's it.
That's where sort of my expertise as a mental performance coach comes in, because yes, I'm going to tell you that that's something that you should be doing, but I'm also going to explain why you should be doing it, which makes it, at least for those people who are invested in the process of becoming the best athlete that they can be and want to have a growth mindset and want to learn, they're going to understand why they should be doing that. And if you understand why you should be doing it, you're going to be a lot more likely to do it.
Yeah.
Because you understand how much it's benefiting you. And that's going to play into doing it more consistently, at least I think.
Yeah, I agree. Knowing why all these techniques work and what they are used for, I wish I knew why, because I'd take it a little bit more serious,
Yes.
just because I understand the science behind it.
Yes. And, who knows what 20-year-old Fuka would have thought, because we talked about, right, coaches giving you feedback, and if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. But it's like, at least if you were to have been given this coaching advice back then, you could have picked and choose like what you wanted to implement or not.
For sure.
Because a lot of people might be like, oh, like, I don't need that kind of stuff. Like the mental performance, it's like hogwash. Like physically, like I've just, whatever. I just need to, be better. Like, this kind of thing. And like, maybe there's some of that too. Like maybe you are just going through a slump. Like if you're batting 300, like you might strike out 7 times in a row and then get 3 hits on your next 3 at bats, and maybe you weren't doing anything wrong at all, and you just need to like stay the course. But I think, like I mentioned earlier, part of this podcast is to shed light on, for mostly the younger athletes, but anybody that may still actively be playing, like, here's why we do these things, and here's why they're so important. And most of the like best athletes that we know right now have talked about how important this stuff is, like the LeBron Jameses, the Lionel Messis, the Rory McIlroys, like these kind of guys that are at the top of their game. Like they talk about how they use mental performance techniques.
Yeah. And I don't know, I guess another one that's coming back to me too is I feel like I had a very extreme organized routine. Like my daily routine was so organized that, I mean, this last couple of years I've gotten really off it, which I need to get back on it. But thinking back, my like daily routine was so organized and specific. Like I would get up at 7, brush my teeth at 7:30, eat breakfast at 7:45, go to the weight room at 8, go practice at 8:30, come back for lunch at 9. I mean, a lot of this, the team organized it, but then like my routine in the morning and then my routine for the game was very specific. I put my socks on first. I put, my compression shorts second, pants third. Like all this stuff was like super routine. Now I remember this coming back to me. And so that's another piece of advice for all the young athletes out there. Like have your routine. I taught this to my brother too. Create your routine and then stick to it, because I don't know if this is true. I feel like it creates like a sense of relaxation.
It does.
Because it's like routine. Like you do it in the same thing.
Sense of familiarity.
Yep. So now I'm thinking back, that's another piece of advice that I think is super important for athletes. Like routine, pregame routine, whether it's like right before the game, and then like if you're a baseball player, right before you get in the box, and anywhere you can kind of create like familiar relaxation. So that's another one I forgot, but
that's a big one.
Man, I talking about this, I didn't realize how many like this all is under the umbrella of sports performance. Now we're talking about it. It's crazy though.
Yeah, I mean some of it, right? There's some crossover, right? Because if you have pre-shot routine or a daily routine, like there's some physical things that you're doing, getting dressed and like going to the weight room at this time and eating, at this time. And even your pre-shot routine might have been like, with my bat, like tap each of the front of my feet a couple of times.
Tap the plate.
Tap the plate, draw a little line, like step in this and that, whatever. Like there's definitely some crossover, but these are what I would classify as like mental performance techniques.
Yeah, I would, because I feel relaxed when I do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of speaks to what I was talking about earlier and getting you into that zone of optimal performance with that inverted U theory. Like having a routine settles your mind a little bit. Whereas like if you don't have a routine, it's a little bit more disorganized, it's a little bit more chaotic. And humans are creatures of habit. Whether it's good habits or bad habits, we all have some of both. You'll notice if you, and I'm speaking to you, but to our listeners at large, like we are creatures of habits. We have the same like fidgeting things that we do. Like we say the same words, the same phrases. We greet people the same way. We drive the same way to work. We tend to eat the same things at the grocery store. We watch the same shows. Like people watch The Office reruns all the time. It's like, it's comforting to do that. You feel a sense of familiarity. And when you're in a high pressure sport situation, competition, a match, whatever it is, you draw on that comfort because you want to be as comfortable and in control as possible. And so by using routines, pre-shot, pre-game, even day to day, that normalizes things for you and makes it a little bit more comfortable.
Agreed.
So sounds like you were using a lot of these things and you just
didn't know.
You didn't know. Exactly. So like I was mentioning earlier, I think maybe there's a lot of athletes that are doing some of these things, but again, I just want to bring to light like why are we doing these things? And we've talked about everything that you've talked about with the positive self-talk. Why are we positively talking to ourselves? With the routine, why do we have a routine? As far as not changing anything unless it's needed, why don't we change anything unless it's needed? Right? All of these things, like there's a reason why we do it. Just like there's a reason you're in the weight room. You need to have a certain amount of physical strength and speed and agility to perform. Like you could be of the best like batting technique ever. But if you don't lift weights, you're not going to have enough physical strength to hit the ball over the fence. So that's why we lift weights. Just like there's a reason why we do mental performance techniques, because you can be as physically gifted as possible. But if you aren't doing these other things, you're decreasing your chances of success. In the same way of the physical that I just explained.
I agree completely.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot today. If you could leave our listeners with one key piece of advice about mastering the mental game, what would it be? Of everything that we talked about today, what's the one thing that stands out for you the most as far as mastering the mental game and achieving, optimal athletic performance? If there's one thing that you could have our listeners take away, what would that be from today?
Coming into this, like I said a few times, it would be, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. But now speaking to you about all these techniques, now I would hope the listeners actually understand them and then try different ones that work for them, or shoot, maybe you use almost all of them. But just like you said, now you point that out, I really didn't use them enough or just understand them to use them. So I would say, shoot, now that we're here and you're explaining this in detail, try, for athletes that are, listening to this, try them. Try the breathing technique. You definitely 1,000% should have a routine. So maybe at the top of the list of all these, I'd say the routine is probably, for me, the most important, because everything I do always had a routine. And so I guess that's number one out of all the things we talked about, because it creates that sense of realization and preparation going into whatever you're going to do, especially the game. But definitely, with the breathing technique, using like a focal point. What else did we talk about?
Positive self-talk.
Positive self-talk.
Grounding techniques, mindfulness.
All this stuff
Stress
matters.
management, like the ice baths.
Yep.
Like handling stress so that you can perform better in optimal situations. I mean, these are all obviously very important.
Yep.
But it sounds like for you, the most important would be having a routine.
Having a routine, positive self-talk, for sure.
Those two, for sure.
For sure.
Those are what kind of you think would have helped.
Like on a daily basis, I think everyone should use it, even athlete or not, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I think that's why those two stick out to me, because you'll carry that throughout your whole life.
Yeah. And I mean, sort of generally speaking, right, you were a professional baseball player. Now you are sort of a everyday citizen, if you will, not to like take anything away from what you do, but you're not an athlete anymore, is what I mean. But everybody can benefit from positive self-talk and having an organized routine as far as like day-to-day life. So whether we're talking about athletes or somebody that works in sales and business, like these are going to be mental performance techniques that will help you optimize your performance
in
no
life.
matter what it is that you do.
For sure.
Talking to yourself positively and having a routine.
1,000%.
All right, so let's wrap up there. I know you mentioned this earlier. I just want to touch base one last time. If you could drop your Instagram, how people can follow you, connect with your journey, learn more about your, anything about you, reach out to you. Social media handles are what once again?
Social media handles, I have Instagram, TikTok, now X, not Twitter, right?
Right.
It's all under Fukofuka 95. So my last name and then 95.
Okay, and you have a website listed on there?
Yeah, on my Instagram.
Okay,
bio,
and you're doing personal training here in San Diego, and you're also an online fitness coach. So anybody from wherever you are reaching out can find out more about your programs through that way.
Yes. If you have any specific questions, you can always DM me on Instagram. Remember the cameras at DM me on Instagram.
For sure.
And and we get to connect there.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come talk to me today and sharing your experiences, of which, we really talked about some real raw stuff.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you were able to open up about that. That really means a lot. And anybody that has any other questions, feel free to reach out to myself or Fuka. Anybody that has anything any feedback or any questions about the episode, feel free to drop that in the comments below. And thanks again, everybody, for listening, and we'll catch you all in the next one.
Yep. Thank you for having me.